Ladies and gentlemen, ATDF everything in that shelf presentation. You're now rocking with TDF everything. Spoiled rotten.
Spoiler alert.
Welcome back, everybody.
Hey, happy new decade.
Ah, it's me, Daniel,
And ban
on Spoiled Rotten.
on that shelf.
Almost forgot it. All right, well, here we are, episode 101.
Boom.
Or 101, if you want to be specific. Anyway, the point is, we are here to rank the Star Wars movies definitively, which will be fun. But before that, we got some trailer reactions.
Yep. Some
slash
pretty big
reviews.
trailers dropped.
And we've got some other stuff to talk about. You'll find out. It's in the show notes, and you're going to listen to it, so there's no need for me to tell you ahead of time.
Yep.
Okay, so first, let's talk about the New Mutants trailer, because I remember that one.
Yeah, from
I know
2
the
years
characters. Yeah,
So-
I guess it was supposed to be 2018.
Yeah, it was.
I keep thinking it was supposed to be 2017.
Yeah, and so this is obviously a lot of people are like, why are they releasing this? You put up a really, really good point. If they have any money to make off of this, it would be in theater release, not from a streaming service like Disney Plus. Like you said, they've already paid. They're not going to get more money out of that. And because the X-Men property has been treated the way it has been by Fox Studios, it's hard to get any kind of like excitement going for it, especially with the Dark Phoenix thing in our month. But like, because maybe this is a palate cleanser from Dark Phoenix.
No, it's just, I mean, yes, maybe, but also what I've heard, which I'm happy for the director at least, is that they're like, don't worry, there's not going to be like a studio cut. Like, just release the movie you want to release.
Yeah. So it's actually going to be
no one
their,
cares.
it's actually going to be their Josh Boone's version of the X-Men spinoff, which is really, really exciting
For him.
For him,
Yeah.
and we're going to get to see like the original vision of that, which I really, really appreciate because I don't like the too
I
many
hope it
cooks in the
is.
kitchen.
Like, I hope it's not just so far gone that he's like, well, whatever, I'll salvage whatever I can with what they let me shoot.
Yeah. I just think like what's going to happen in the next so it's opening April 3rd.
Yes.
And the trailer's fine. It's what it is. A lot of scary stuff going on. You get to the nice thing I like about this one and that you brought up was that this trailer around you got to start to see their powers. They're starting to do stuff, and it's
you do get more of like a team vibe here, but like what I liked when this was just the concept was the idea that it's like a haunted mansion movie, but the people that are being picked off can fight back, like because they also have power. Like they would be the monster in any other movie. Mm-hmm. So I like that this movie. Well, first of all, it seems like they're kind of there's gonna be an element of like digging into them and their patience in this.
Yep.
I'm using haunted mansion just as like a trope. Not sure. I know they're not in. I know they're in a hospital or whatever.
Yeah.
Well, maybe they aren't. Maybe this is all in their heads. I don't know. Mm-hmm. But the idea is that there's going to be some digging into them. Obviously, that's how you get the audience to know who they are if you're not familiar with comic books like me. And I do like that there's going to be an element of them having to fight back and show some growth with their powers, I assume.
Yeah.
Because the trailers make it seem like they're not in control of their powers because all of them have to list the bad things that happened to them, which I assume are like times where their powers came out and they weren't able to control.
Or the first time they experienced it and couldn't control. I mean, like Cannonball Charlie Heaton from Stranger Things. Yeah. Just kind of went like, oh, I went really, really anxious or had a panic attack, and then here I was kind of deal. So it's kind of like, it's really interesting to explore that aspect of like what happens, because it's been a while since we've met mutants that have no idea how to control their power. Like we had that in the original trilogy with like basically Rogue providing that vehicle of like, I don't know how to control these powers, please help me kind of deal. So it's been a while since that, and it's nice to see new faces, but it's also tough to know that this is not going to be continued beyond this, which is the most likely scenario. I can't really imagine.
I think you're right that they're not going to continue with this.
because to launch the mutant franchise within the MCU using New Mutants is kind of disappointing. I think
Which
I know a lot of people
thing
want the
that I don't know
original
that we
cast.
have 100% confirmation
We don't
on,
have,
but it is kind of like this is considered part of the MCU. But as I was saying over text, like I bet it's as much as part of the MCU as
is it considered part of the MCU or
that's what they're saying.
Really?
I don't know
who's saying that.
That's what people are saying. Like they're just and remember, you even said like this. You didn't sit right with you that it was part of the MCU because then that's how you're introducing mutants.
Well,
but I was saying like it won't necessarily matter.
I
It'll
don't
be
think,
as much a part of MCU as
I'm not too sure because I don't think it's considered MCU in the scenario where like the opening of the trailers you get like the different studios with their logos and all that kind of stuff. You only see the Marvel stuff. You don't see the Marvel studios.
What I would say is this is being released with Kevin Feige's like blessing, and it's
with
not
his
a
blessing.
Spider-Man thing. It is considered, and I was trying to get my thought out. Well, it's as part of it as the Netflix shows were until they aren't. Until they're like, meh, no,
gotcha,
just ignore it. I think that it's that situation where it's like, yeah, if you want it to be a part of MCU, it is, but this will have no bearing on like what happens going forward or tie in, or maybe it does tie into stuff we've seen before when they say a certain thing.
Sure.
And it'll just be like, oh, cool.
Cool. That's a reference to.
Yeah. They also know
Jean
Tony
Grey?
Stark.
Cool.
All right.
That's fun. So what we have here is the cast or the people there for people that are unfamiliar with the mutants that we have there. Maisie Williams is Wolfsbane, and of course she can turn into a wolf. That's what her power is. Anya Taylor-Joy is Ilyana Rasputin, who's magic, so Russian mutant with sorcery powers,
and Colossus's sister.
Colossus's sister, and all that kind of stuff with teleportation, using teleportation just to travel. Charlie Heaton from Stranger Things as Cannonball, essentially who Teenage Negasonic Warhead was. That power, just being able to accelerate really, really fast and become invincible doing that. Alice Braga is Cecilia Reyes, who's the mentor, the medical doctor of the group, but actually does have a mutant power of herself.
Because she seems like she's the villain.
She does seem like the villain. Yeah.
But I feel like when they were first talking about it, it was like she was, or at least they were positioning her like the concerned doctor. But it does look like this trailer is, and I'm not saying they've changed their idea, but like this trailer is more positioning her like, I don't know, maybe she is doing nefarious things.
Or it could just be one. What I imagine more with the Cecilia Reyes character is like, I didn't realize that this is what my employer was looking for and everything like that.
Classic
now, let's
Jenny
see.
Slate and Venom.
Exactly. The Jenny very, very good connection. Then we have Blue Hunt as Danielle Moonstar, who's Mirage. That's the woman that is basically leading this whole thing. Like, you're new to the whole like AA support group
She's the lead of this trailer.
Correct. And then we have Henry Zaga as Roberto da Costa, who's Sunspot, as Brazilian mutant with the ability to manipulate solar energy. So
and he was in Days of Future Past.
Correct.
For like 2 seconds.
Yes.
Or maybe more. I don't remember.
Yeah, but we also know that we're not expecting a lot of continuity.
Yeah, not the actor, but maybe the actor. Who knows? I would have to look it up. But the character has been in the movies before.
Yeah, so of course we'll when that comes out, we'll be reviewing it. We'll try to be as objective as possible, without. But I will forewarn all our listeners right now. I am looking forward to that being like one of the biggest shit shows ever, just because it's just like.
I'm hoping it's not because they're giving the director the ability to make the movie he wants.
Correct. But the concern
edit together
is
the movie he wants. I don't know if he can make the movie he wants at this point.
I think one of the hardest things about this movie, if it's good, then it's almost like, oh no, maybe Fox did know what they were doing. But it's too inconsistent in the whole franchise.
No, that's not what it would mean, because it's only his vision now because it's over at Disney.
Right, but that's one of those things where it's like, oh, well, you were starting to figure things out. Cool.
Again, I don't see that because I see it as true. Like it was not being put out when it was just under Fox. Like even they were like, oh no, you got to change this, change that. And then now it's still where it was, but under Kevin Feige and the MCU people, and they're like, "Well, do what you need to do then."
I see.
So I'm saying if it's good, then that means then like the director had the right idea first. I'm not saying that's a win for MCU. I'm saying like the director, maybe he is just a good director that had a good idea, and there was studio interference.
And probably MCU might pull him back for something like that too.
Yeah,
I think the interesting thing about this too is like what I'm going to be looking forward to during this movie is any element telling us what time frame this is set within. Because if it's one of those things where it's like, okay, it does genuinely stand as a good side story that could be written into the MCU narrative, it would be nice to know where the time frame is collectively, so we could be like, oh, it's pre-snap or post-snap, or you know what I mean? It's like the Thanos dying and all that kind of stuff, or after Thanos dying. I think that would be very, very interesting, especially if it's before Thanos like snapping and bringing all that kind of stuff back. It could justify a whole bunch of things that happen. Or if it's after the fact, we just don't know, right? Yeah. Because the idea of them being like, but I would, it's interesting either way, but that's what I'm going to be looking forward to, is like what anything tells us about where timeline is, what time frame this is going to be in, or if it's going to be very ambiguous so that Kevin Feige can retcon and retfit this into something. Yeah, that would be the biggest thing I'm looking for.
We'll see. April 3rd. Mm-hmm. All right, let's move on to Morbius.
Next trailer, Morbius. Now, this is a big trailer for everyone that has already seen it. Generated a lot of buzz in a very, very good way, in a very confusing way. Obviously, we have a very generic kind of trailer up until the very end, where we start to see connections to the Spider-Man universe. And even so, when I first watched this trailer, I don't know about you, but when the first part where it's like the same studio that brought you Spider-Man Homecoming, Far From Home, and Venom, part of me scratching my head, I'm like, I wonder what Kevin Feige thought when he first saw that and everything like that. But it's like they're technically right, but they're definitely misleading that. And so like when that trailer first started, to me, I was like, that's ballsy of Sony to do, because this is purely a Sony thing. Yeah. And then toward the end, where they start to have Spider-Man references, which is funny in its own right, because they used there's no continuity there. They use the Sam Raimi Spider-Man picture, as opposed to a Tom Holland Spider-Man picture, and they still had murderer spray paint.
Everyone's like, "Oh, that's from the video game," meaning it's just out and out owned by Sony, which I feel like the Raimi stuff is still owned by Sony. So it doesn't really matter.
Still owned by.
But I think either that's just gonna switch to Tom Holland Spider-Man in the actual movie, or they don't care.
Right. Yeah.
It's one of the two. Well, someone was like, whatever,
maybe they've teased the next Spidey suit, which is, I can't imagine that being the case. It doesn't look techy enough.
I'll say this, I don't think it's a tease, but I could be wrong. I think it's either someone was like, yeah, there's a Spider-Man, and they were like, sure, when no one making this movie cares about Spider-Man. Or it's just a fake out for the trailer, the way a lot of trailers these days have fake out stuff.
Correct, but the what's interesting is the reaction to this, trailer.
Because at the end, Adrian Toomes, even though he's not named, but I feel like it's fair to assume that's Adrian Toomes.
I think it's fair
played
to
by Michael
assume.
Keaton. Is talking to
Michael Morbius.
I don't even know the character's name. I do not care about this movie at all. I care about Michael Keaton being in more things, and I do like the idea of the Vulture being back. Right. Although, as we talked about over text, that's probably the only scene he's in.
Yes.
Like, I can't imagine he's in a lot of this movie.
Yeah, I can only imagine him being a part of, like, a post-credit or something like that. Because if it's at any point and step in the actual movie, then it's going to throw things off, for sure, I feel.
Yeah, I mean, I would rather just watch a movie about them, like, forming a team than actually what this movie looks like it is, which is just, like...
a generic...
I got powers, and I'm going to fight some people.
Yep.
Tyrese is in it. That's cool.
Is he?
Yeah, he's right there. Al Madrigal. He's a good comedian.
Cool.
And Matt
Smith is in it.
Apparently, he's the villain.
He's
but
the villain.
Like, I don't know what that character is.
But I mean, like, the villain to what? Like a competing researcher? Like,
apparently,
because the villain is
what it's gonna be is this is a character, but I don't remember the name.
Right.
But like, he'll just be like a stronger, whatever Morbius is, living vampire. Like, they are, as you said, competing scientists,
right?
And they both, well, or he'll see Morbius get powers and then he'll do it. But since he's not a nice person like Morbius is, he'll just use his powers for evil.
So traditional superhero origin story where the supervillain's power is very similar to the superhero's
classic
power.
Jeff Bridges and Iron Man.
Yep. Classic.
I'm just gonna keep doing that.
Yeah.
No, sorry, I take it back. Classic Riz Ahmed in Venom.
Classic Captain America Red Skull.
I'm just going to keep using Venom as a touch point because this is the same studio that brought us Venom.
It is the same studio that brought us Venom. And that's the interesting part about this, too, is when I rewatched this, I thought that a lot of the laboratory stuff that they had was
you think
very,
that could be
very
the Life
similar.
Foundation?
Yeah, I think it was very similar to the Life Foundation. So I'm very interested to see.
You're a nicer fan than I am because I'm just like, this just looks dumb. But you're like, no, look, this could be like building out a universe. And I'm like,
I mean, that would be kind of cool, right? It would be just like, oh, okay, well, the Life Foundation in this little mini universe that they've created has like a significantly bigger role for everything else and all that kind of stuff.
It's like how they were trying to use Norman Osborn in the Amazing Spider-Man movies. Like it was like basically the villains come from Oscorp and like. I mean, in that second movie, he was in it for, I don't even know why they killed him off, but he was in it for a little bit.
Yeah, I don't know why they killed him off. It was stupid, but whatever.
But this movie, I feel like I saw the trailer and I was like, yeah, I don't care. I like the music because I like that song.
Yes.
I
hated the fact that I'm like, oh, you're really emphasizing him humming that a lot instead of just being music. Like, that was weird to me.
I thought, because I was like, oh, this will tie in to like, if not the movie, the trailer in some way. And then I was like, no, the trailer's just leading up to Michael Keaton. There was no real point in that song other than maybe it is part of the movie now. But like I was so prepared for that piece of music to be like, okay, like he, like if you look at the notes, this explains something, or like that, or like that's the music that will open up the like cave for him to get his power. But it was just like,
you gave Sony a lot of credit.
I was just like, oh no, it's a cool song and it's like, it sounds kind of creepy when he does it.
Yep.
And cool. One thing I did hear, because if you are working with Adrian Toomes, he also is in the same jail as Scorpion.
Yep.
But that some people seem to think that the Jared Harris character is probably Dr. Octavius.
Jared Harris.
So he's like the only other guy that speaks in the trailer, basically.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Like, and you've seen him in like, well, you didn't watch Mad Men, but he's in Mad Men, Chernobyl.
Sure.
Did you watch the Sherlock movies with Downey Jr.? Not.
Yes, I did.
Not. So in the second one, he's Moriarty. Jared.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Oh, so that's where I'm. Yeah. Cool.
Yeah. So Jared Harris is a mentor of some sorts, but they're kind of making it, or some people who are close to the movie but want to remain anonymous are saying that he might, in fact, be
Dr. Arno
Doc
Octavius.
Ock.
How are they going to?
And that would that would really lean into the whole Sinister Six thing that they might be plotting,
well,
like
that's what
building
it
back
seems
up
like
to.
they're doing, and it just seems like they're replacing Mysterio with Morbius at this point. If Mysterio is in fact,
I don't
dead.
know that they would have to replace him so much as just he would be another person that might join.
Right. And it builds it. It's very important because Mysterio's kind of connection to the Sinister Six is so important in the sense where he does basically like all the visuals for it and the deception and all that kind of stuff, which is a really cool added element as well.
In this universe, Mysterio is just a tech team. So like you don't
But
obviously
you
they can still project
director.
Jake Gyllenhaal, but like you can still use the Mysterio tech team for Sinister Six.
I guess you could.
In this universe.
You could, but it wouldn't be Mysterio then, or a
if
person
you're
named Mysterio.
Yeah, but in the movie it wasn't necessarily a person named Mysterio. They even made the point of saying they just said Mysterio because that means mystery in Spanish.
Yep.
Or Italian, sorry. That's not his name. And the idea was it was Team Mysterio. So the team isn't broken up. They just lost
kind
a member of the team.
Yeah, kind of like how it was like he's known as Hawkeye, but never officially called Hawkeye. He's just known as Clint, and all that kind of stuff. Yeah, that makes sense to me. The biggest speculation right now is whether or not that is Adrian Toomes. And like rewatching Homecoming, And I'm like, yeah, he's in character
It would
for
be
Adrian
so
Toomes.
stupid if he's not Adrian
It'd be
Toomes.
so dumb. I'm like, oh, so he's this random ambulance guy? Like, come on, that's dumb. He had the exact same mannerisms, acting the exact same way. But someone also on Instagram or Reddit or whatever it is, whatever social media platform, has in that one scene where Adrian is talking to Scorpion in the jail and all that kind of stuff, revealing, being like, no, I'm protecting Peter's identity and all that kind of stuff. There's a picture of someone in the background that looks very like similar to Jared Leto.
Yeah, but he looks. I mean, who knows at what point in the movie he goes to jail? Because yes, I've heard that they could redo that scene in Morbius, but like that guy that they're pointing at obviously isn't Jared Leto, but that's not important.
No,
the important thing is that he still seems too big, and I feel like the point is he's a sickly guy, and like he doesn't even look that big when he's interacting with Toomes in the trailer. Like that guy just looked too big. Right. So I guess you could still retcon it and have him be there, but nitpicky enough, I just feel like that character people keep freezing on isn't supposed to be
I don't
Morbius.
think so.
You can still have him be in the movie and then just redo that scene.
Yeah.
And he sees it just the same way they put Jake Gyllenhaal in that scene in Civil War where he's like, what?
Yeah,
Barf.
where like oh, it's expensive.
Like, there was no
technology.
No one's gonna go through that Civil War scene and be like, oh, see, look, there's the back of Jake Gyllenhaal.
Yes,
it's just no, they just put him in it.
They're gonna reshoot it with that.
Yeah.
Which I think is really really cool. If that was the case and everything like that, it would be really really nice. But I'm just like, from the back end business deal of like Sony flexing right now to be like, oh, that's a big flex for you to do, like to really tie this in, and then. I don't know how Kevin feels about this,
No, it doesn't
said
matter.
anything, obviously.
I feel like that's what they've said. Like they've already been like, and realistically, they're allowed to do whatever they want because they're not referencing any MCU proper character.
Correct.
They're referencing characters they own.
Yeah, they're playing within their own sandbox.
Yeah, they're doing whatever they want to do. Yeah. So yes, technically, Adrian Toomes is part of an MCU movie, but he is just part of that Sony universe. Like, it's not like you can watch Homecoming or Far From Home on Disney Plus as part of like the Marvel package.
Correct.
They aren't actually part of that universe. They're not part of that business deal. They are nebulously a part of the MCU.
Yeah. Are we sure about that actually with the Spider-Man stuff?
I mean, the point is yes, they can, that as Marvel can reference these characters, but I don't know that it goes both ways. I think Sony can be like, well, that's our character, so we're using him.
No, what I meant was more like, are we sure that, and I'm looking through it now, and the answer is yes, on Disney Plus.
That I'm sure of.
Yeah, they are not there for sure. But you know what is there that is really, really exciting? The Fantastic Four movies, including the Josh Trank one.
Yeah, good.
That's going to be fun to watch.
Let me know how that goes. I saw it once. That was enough.
You know how much I love watching bad movies. Anyways, so that's Morbius stuff. So let us know what you think. Do you think that's actually Adrian Toomes? Do you think Sony is flexing or whatever
that would be weird if it wasn't. I'm just going to assume it is.
It would be weird. I'm 100% assuming it is. And it's just got some huge implications. So it's just like this is going to be a lot of fun and maybe like a good insight into how they're going to build out the Spider-Man universe, or like the grounded stuff that we keep talking about with the Eternals being more cosmic stuff on Earth, and bringing us to this more cosmic element with Captain Marvel 2, which was just recently announced, but don't have the director's not there anymore, but they have the writer. Rumors of them building more stuff out with like Fantastic Four, Silver Surfer, and all that kind of stuff, having more of a cosmic entity going forward in phase 4 and 5 and all that, especially with the Doctor Strange stuff.
Great segue. Yeah. So that brings us to Doctor Strange.
Yep.
They lost Scott Derrickson.
Yep.
That's not great.
Do you think so?
No, it's supposed to shoot in May, so.
That's not good.
That's not a good idea. Not a good idea. What I mean is, my thinking is, if there's any kind of confusion as to how this story is supposed to go, which is to me, that's creative differences. Like you're not agreeing on how to go.
Yeah, is he staying on as producer?
Yeah,
though?
I would too. I would get that check.
Yeah.
I'd be like, yeah,
you better keep me on.
You're gonna keep paying me, and I'm free to not have my name on this bullshit. All right,
and then I can consult for you and tell you what I was originally thinking.
I mean, that would be very big of him, but he also could just leave it alone and get the same credit that Edgar Wright got on Ant-Man. So yeah, I think
shots fired.
But I'm not saying the movie will end up being bad. It's just that's not a good sign.
No,
that,
it's
like,
not.
There's that much confusion as to what the direction will be this close to filming.
Yeah.
It's not like they have like a year out or something like that. It's like you're pretty much like going to camera in a couple of months, and then they're like, "Yeah, sorry, got to step away from this."
Right.
Considering I've seen him tweet about this. When was Doctor Strange? 2016.
Let's say yes. I can't remember.
So like, I've seen him like be active in talking about his ideas for Doctor Strange since that movie came out, because that's pretty much when I started following him on Twitter.
Because he was really pushing the horror element, and now they're pulling back on the horror element of this.
I haven't seen anyone pull back. I just know that that's the assumption, is that they didn't want it to be as horror based as he did.
Right. And he was all like gung ho, is like, yeah, it's gonna be the first horror film in the MCU.
What I did hear, which makes more sense to me, is that it was more they didn't want him to use Nightmare, which is a character he wanted to use in the first movie, and then he like basically was like, fine, I won't use it in this one, and then he was really excited to use Nightmare in this movie, this second one, and they were kind of like, or Brother Voodoo, and he was like, Nightmare, it's gonna be Nightmare, and they're like, maybe it's not. Maybe it's not. Maybe we force Wanda into your movie. Maybe we force Blade into your movie. And he's like, all right, you know what? I'm fucking done with this.
Yep. I could actually see them forcing Blade into this really, really well.
I mean, I want that, but
because why would they cast Marshall Ali this early out and not put him in any of the kind of things to build? Like there's hype for it already. He's obviously part of Phase 5. Because he's not officially a part of Phase 4. So Blade is a part of Phase 5, and what better way to launch
maybe
that?
he's in Morbius.
Oh my god, that'd be hilarious.
Although, did you watch the deleted scene where Morbius was in the first like Wesley Snipes Blade?
I did not. What?
Yeah,
that's a thing?
Cool. Yeah, that's pretty. I mean,
that's pretty sweet.
You don't really get to see much of him, but he's like on a build. So basically, it's the ending of Blade, but then he goes out onto a rooftop with the female doctor character,
right?
And they're kind of having a conversation about like, oh, do you really have to do this? And then he's like, hold on a second, and then the camera cuts to Morbius on a rooftop with his like jacket flapping and his hair flapping.
Right.
Kind of looks like the Winter Soldier. Same idea, like covered up face, because obviously he's a vampire.
Yeah.
So he's got like kind of like goggles covering up his face, and his mouth is kind of covered up. And then he's like, yeah, I got to go to work, and then he runs off to chase Morbius. Yeah, look it up. It's pretty cool.
That's cool.
But I know that those characters are usually connected. So
yeah, they have to be.
If Sony really wanted to put, but again,
because
they don't really have control over.
It's one of those things
Blade.
where they fight and then they start to team up after a while. They're like, "Hey, you don't want to do this." Well, there's just a big misunderstanding. This is cool.
No, I don't think he'll show
together.
up in Morbius. If he did, that would be amazing, but I don't think he will. But I feel like if he were to show up in something this year,
I doubt it, because Sony,
I don't think they own Blade.
I don't think has the rights to that. Do you think though?
What?
That Marvel would use that as a gambling chip for future Spider-Man negotiations? Like, hey, we can lend you more. We can lend you this guy because we know this is what you want to do with it.
No, because I think Kevin Feige's done with this bullshit, and he was kind of like, yeah, I'm already like figuring out ways to get Spider-Man out of this.
Yeah, that's fair.
If I don't own him, I don't want to bother with this.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think, what were we talking about?
I'm just
Doctor
waiting
Strange?
for the day Bob Iger's like, screw this. I'm just gonna buy like
Sony
studio. I'm gonna buy Sony Studios. Screw you. Sony doesn't even want to do movies anymore because their new CEO is more about product.
Yeah. So Doctor Strange, they lost their director.
Yep.
Not great. They're gonna hopefully get someone soon.
We'll see.
Because that's
any directors on your short list that you think they can take over? In
No, I
such a short?
absolutely do not care who directs it, because I didn't really care who directed this one. I just thought it was a good.
I
that
agree.
was a much better movie than I thought it would be, and it's not. And it didn't come from a director that I was like, ooh, sick, or like I didn't feel any way
What do you mean,
about
Doctor Strange 1 was better than you thought it would be?
Oh yeah, 100%.
Oh, okay.
I was like, I don't care about Doctor Strange, and then I saw them.
Yeah,
and
I
was
don't
like,
care about Doctor
I was like,
Strange
yeah, pretty good. And then obviously he didn't do Infinity War, but Infinity War made me be like, wow, Doctor Strange is a lot better in this universe than I remember.
That's correct. Like, he was just so stuck up in every iteration that I saw him in and everything like that. And I just like the idea he's a cocky guy that's been humbled and still a little bit cocky is a lot of fun to watch.
I just like the world they built. His personality, I was like, yeah, whatever. It's more that I was like, oh, this is really cool. Like, I like the world he lives in.
Yeah, and I like
Wong a lot.
I love how they wrote Wong. It's just like, oh, okay, cool. He's not a manservant anymore like he usually
really
is.
like
I'm like,
that.
that's demeaning.
Yeah.
Okay, well, actually, I shouldn't say manservant. Regardless of his gender, like
he wasn't a servant.
Yeah, he wasn't a servant anymore. He's doing his own thing and having his own laughs and all that kind of stuff. It's good.
Yeah, he's got his own thing going on.
Yeah.
He's,
go Benedict Wong.
Love
Like
it.
him.
He's great.
Good times.
One thing I forgot to talk about before we move into the second piece of Star Wars. Christian Bale might be in the MCU. We forgot to mention that.
Yeah, we forgot about that.
So I've heard the name of the character he's probably going to play, but
Really?
a lot of people, but like who knows?
Who dat?
I mean, who knows? I don't know.
Who dat?
I don't know
Damn
the
it.
character. It's like they might as well have said Flim Flam. I was just like, I don't know who the fuck that is. But like
Fing Fan Foom.
the idea was that he could possibly be playing Beta Ray Bill because it does seem like he will be doing some form of mocap if he takes the role. Not like he's 100% in. This still might not come to pass, but I like the idea that he's even considering it, and it's through Taika Waititi.
Yes.
I've also heard that he might be filming various end credit scenes. Like they might be knocking it out like a Stan Lee type. Obviously, he's not playing Stan Lee, but like they're blocking out a couple of end credit scenes as well for him to be in.
Right.
If he takes the role, he might not take the role, and then I'll just be sad. But I am really
will be sad too.
I'm really excited for Christian Bale to be in a Marvel movie.
I agree, and I hope
especially if it's Taika Waititi directing in the meteor section of what he does.
Because I haven't really seen him do a lot of comedy things, so that would be really, really interesting with Taika and how he's.
Did you see Ford vs Ferrari?
No, not yet.
He's very funny in it.
Oh, I would imagine. Like the trailers make him seem really, really funny, but I just haven't gotten around to seeing it yet. Okay, so yeah, that's it. Other more upsetting Star Wars news though is the Obi-Wan Kenobi series for Disney Plus is put on indefinite hold. Now, there's a lot of rumor and speculation flying around as to why that is. Of course, one of the things offered up is creative differences, and that's really, really weird because usually creative differences means that we're going to fire our director and get someone new, but they're keeping their director and just being like, and they're being very inconsistent. So, like, Kathleen Kennedy has said, 6 episodes. And now down to 4, and now there's speculation that you brought up too that they're like, should we just make a movie?
Yeah, I think the idea is they're gonna just use Deborah Chow to make a movie.
Yep. And is there enough content to span? Because the thing is, I would agree that a movie's easier to do at this point than a mini series of 6 episodes, because that's basically an hour each. So you're making 6 movies.
Or it could be like Mandalorian; it's like 30 minutes each.
Sure, it could be.
But yeah, I think. I mean, obviously, Star Wars is no stranger to firing directors and having that. But that could be the creative differences of like, no, don't. Yeah, I'm not going to let you fire me. And like, no, you're fine. It's like, nah, I'm going to keep coming to work. They're like, you know what? There is no work to come to. But yeah, I don't know how I want it to go actually shake out. Like, It's
weird because
it would suck if nothing comes of it. But I think last week, Ewan McGregor's like, this won't affect the release date.
I've got the article out now. He said like, we just pushed the shoots a little bit back. The scripts are really good. Saw 90% of the writing, really liked it. And he dismissed the creative difference thing. But then he also said, we pushed the dates because of episode 9 that just came out. Everyone had more time to read the stuff that had been written and felt that they wanted to do more work on it. So to me, it was just like that.
That's not what indefinitely on hold means.
I know, that's not what indefinitely on hold means. The funny thing about that is like that line in itself says so much to me.
Oh, we saw episode 9 and we're like, maybe we shouldn't just throw a bunch of shit in there.
No, not only that, but it's like we saw episode 9 and it was like, oh, someone didn't communicate this big plot element of Episode 9 is going to impact how this production is going to go.
Probably.
So it's, to me, it's just like, the more this happens with Star Wars, ever since Kathleen Kennedy stepped in, the more evidence there is that, like, Kennedy's going to be eliminated from this pretty soon, and allowing Favreau or Filoni to fill in as like the overseers to be like, okay, well, we're doing this in this movie, we're doing this, it ties in here, so you have to do this, kind of like really making that Kevin Feige role within the Star Wars universe, if they're moving forward with this, because that is clearly what is missing from Star Wars right now, clearly.
Some kind of vision for the future.
Yep.
Yeah.
There's no cohesion. It's becoming like a Fox Studios X-Men kind of thing of writing.
We're like, we didn't know they were going to use Caliban too.
That's exactly it. Yeah, like stuff like that where it's just like, what are you talking about? There was what the hell kind of deal.
Palpatine is her grandfather. I see.
Yeah. He's like,
Interesting.
Yeah, we could have changed the dialogue here. So that's really, really weird. And then he also goes on to say that he doesn't think that the delay in production is going to affect the release date. I'm like, that's pretty
someone just
naive.
didn't tell him that they were going to go with it's on indefinite hold.
Yeah,
and so he probably just was like, I don't know, there's some delays.
Yeah, because like as an actor, how involved are you in pre-production? Realistically, you're not, except for costume.
I would imagine he's probably involved in this. I'm not saying in general. I'm saying in this specific case because he seems like he wants this to happen. So I'm sure a lot of this is moving forward because of his involvement and probably a lot of him pushing for things to happen.
Right.
I would say he probably is involved.
As a producer. Most
yes,
likely.
and as the lead, I think he probably has some kind of say. Like, because this would be probably a case where, like, well, you know the character. People seem to like you doing this character. Like,
but see, that's the funny thing is because there's a yes and a no, and it depends how Deborah Chow is going to do this too, because it is dependent on the director. But like when Rian Johnson in Last Jedi butted heads with Mark Hamill to be like, no, this is what I want Luke to do, and then Mark Hamill being like, this is not who Luke is, they ultimately went with Rian Johnson's vision of it, obviously, because it's more it was leading somewhere. And then Mark Hamill, ever since he saw it, was like, yeah, you know what, I kind of misspoke earlier.
Yeah.
And like it's a better character arc that he did this. It makes more sense that now he's seen it and understands where it fits in within the whole thing. He was just like, oh, Luke at the end of episode 6 was not like this. I'm like, well, that was 30 years ago, bud. Like,
agreed. Now,
figure that out.
let's talk about these movies.
Yeah, so now let's get into the entree. We are ranking the entire Star Wars Skywalker saga.
Least liked to most liked.
Least liked to most liked, including the anthology movies.
Are we including that Clone Wars movie or no?
The animated one?
Yeah.
I mean, if you don't, I didn't put it in here because I put like cinematic release movies.
It was cinematically released.
Yeah, but like for a week.
No, it was just out.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. We can put it in.
Did you see it?
Yeah.
Okay.
The animated one or the digital
Do we
one?
have it in the same spot?
I don't know, but I can definitely put that in for sure.
All right.
Yeah.
Let's just put it in because it was released. It is. I mean, well, here's why I bring it up. We can decide now if we're putting it in because it is just essentially 3 episodes put together.
Yeah.
So do we want like?
So well,
I'll tell you
why
right
I don't
now,
consider it a part of this.
All right, let's not put it in.
Yeah, I don't consider it a part of this because it is like if you watch the Clone Wars TV show, it is like multiple episodes strung together to make a movie. As long as
I didn't like it
properly.
So
yeah,
there's that.
Yeah,
I watched it and I was like, yeah. I didn't know that it was just 3 episodes. I looked it up later and I'm like, oh, okay. So it is just 3 episodes. Because I was like, why does it feel like this is the end of the movie and now we're starting something completely? Oh, okay.
That's why.
This is why.
Yeah, because, like that's one of the greatest things about, and even the, like someone, if you rewatch Star Wars Rebels, or like not Rebels, the Clone Wars, even the episode release order is out of chronological order from what
those are supposed to be the first 3, but they're actually later on. Okay.
Yeah.
So we're not.
So someone actually did put together a Reddit thread to be like, "This is how you watch the Clone Wars in proper sequential order." So that's fun.
Right. Yeah. Well, I didn't like the movie because of what I just said.
Yeah.
It didn't feel like an actual movie.
No, it doesn't.
And
it just feels like television edited together, which is exactly what it is.
All right. So.
All right. Bottom of the barrel. You want to go first?
Wait. So how many movies are there?
11.
Then? Right. What's number 11?
Solo.
Interesting.
Easily Solo.
Very interesting.
Yeah.
Did not see that coming.
Really?
Yeah, you were pretty positive about it when we watched it.
No,
Or
I chose to only speak about the positive things, but
Right.
in the ranking of everything, that was the least necessary movie of all. It did the least. It had so little attached to the Force. It lost that power, and all that kind of stuff, which is really, really important. It was creating a movie that is hard to get excited for because you know what happens to the character already. The character dies, so you're just like, well, why do we...
Wait, which character are you talking about?
Solo? Han?
Oh,
Yeah.
Ultimately. I was like, that's not how the movie ends.
No. Han dies.
Okay.
And then
Fair enough. All right.
And then because of the thing that the Darth Maul thing, which I was like, yeah, I know he's alive, but like the rest of the cinema was like, what the
I was
hell?
like, so
Everyone-
this will be
yeah.
interesting to see what you put Rogue One at, since your
yeah.
reasoning for this is you already know he dies.
Yeah.
But yeah.
But as also, I will say though, I get what you're saying, but it's my favorite character in the Star Wars universe that dies. So I'm like very bitter about that, personally speaking.
that is fair.
Yeah.
So Solo is your number 11. Mm-hmm. I should have done this ahead of time, but if you want to listen to our Solo episode, it's on the site. Go to the site, tdfeverything.com/spoilrod, or just subscribe and then look for Solo, because I can't find it right now.
Right.
Fuck. What year did it come out? 2007? No, 18. Doesn't matter. Sure. Who cares? Just go to the site and look it up or subscribe. My number 11 is Episode 2, Clone Wars.
Oh, yeah.
Or what was it? Attack of the Clones. That's what it's called.
Attack of the Clones, yeah.
Don't even know what it's called.
To you was your... That's... Oh, wow. That... Ooh, I want to hear this.
Yeah, I just don't like it. It's boring. Who cares what's going on in this movie? Mm-hmm. It seems like the show helps it a lot, I would imagine. Mm-hmm. But it feels like it's such a big time jump. So, like, when I rewatch these movies, you're like, okay, Anakin as a kid. Oh, no, Anakin's just like an adult, basically.
5 years older now, and already hit him like a brick.
Yeah. And, like, we're well into things, and I'm just like, all of this is happening. Sure, there's exciting things happen, but I feel no real connection to, like, what happened in the previous movie. Other than it's the same characters, yes.
Yeah.
But it's more like, okay, like, I guess we're just dealing with this now.
Yeah, everything that's, like, connected to it, it happens in the first scene that you see Anakin and Obi-Wan in the thing. It's like, oh, it's completely dialogue. I haven't seen her in 5 years. I'm nervous. Cool.
Yeah.
That's cool. That's it.
So, yeah, and I was just bored with the whole clone stuff. I was like, meh, all right. Cool. Jango Fett.
Yeah.
Got it.
I mean, that movie in itself is, and I mean, I'll put my points into it when I start talking about it.
Yeah. I get that people are like, no, obviously this is not the weakest prequel movie, but for me, I'm like, not only is it the weakest prequel movie for me, it's the weakest movie in general. Just because I'm like, I don't feel anything for what's going on here.
Yeah, no.
It's not exciting, but I feel like if I were to watch the shows, I would be able to weave back into this movie.
That's
and be
where
like,
you're wrong, kiddo.
All right, well, then it really is a bad movie.
No, because it is legit just a bad movie. The shows from the Clone Wars just launch off this, so they're just basically like.
No, I'm not saying weave story points in, but like weave back and be like, oh, okay, like that's what's going on in between this and Revenge of the Sith, yeah, and like feel better about like what's going on. But
to supplement that, because there's so much story in the Clone Wars.
Yeah. No, I know that. I know that basically at the end of this movie is the beginning of the TV series.
Yes.
Yeah. So I don't think it's going to backdate anything. It's more just like I'll feel like better about the movie as a whole, as I know that it's something that branched out into this show.
And then the really other confusing thing about this too is like you have different Clone Wars TV shows.
Yes,
you have the Clone Wars and then Clone Wars, and then one is digitally animated, one is traditionally pen and paper animated. The pen and paper one is very, very interesting because it gives you a lot of backstory and Star Wars lore, specifically what happens with Anakin and how Jedi Padawans are transitioned into full Jedis. Like that ritual is kind of really, really cool, and you really appreciate it because you explore that in the animated thing, as well as you get the explanation of like, oh, C-3PO is now gold. How did that happen? It's really, really cool. You get to explore more Jedi lore about the Kyber crystals and all that kind of stuff. It's a really good thing to watch, as long as you can accept the animation for what it is, because in my opinion the digital animation is far superior.
Interesting.
Yeah, so there's that, but it's still worth watching and all that kind of stuff.
All right, what's your number 10?
Well, number 10 is Phantom Menace.
We have the same number 10.
Yeah,
Makes sense.
let's hit on it together.
I like Darth Maul fight scenes.
Yeah, and
I like his music for Duel of the
Duel
Fates.
of the Fates is one of the
Great.
gets my blood going.
Great
man.
stuff.
Yeah.
I like the pod race. I feel like when I rewatched it, I was like, this is taking forever to get to this damn
You
pod
like the
race.
pod race way more than I do. I hate that pod race.
Yeah,
Well, I
I'm
don't
just-
hate it. I
I'm
just
just
think
like, yeah,
there's
this
too
is
much
fun.
emphasis on it.
Yeah, like there's a big build up to it considering it's a big part of it. I'm like, what? Like this could have just been a pod race movie if like for the amount of attention they give it.
Correct. They oversell it for sure.
Yeah, but like I'm into racing scenes, so I liked it.
Yep.
And I liked Darth Maul. I do not like the somehow people don't think it's racist, but some of the racist characterizations of like the aliens that I feel like are they're
Gungans?
going for well there's that, but like there's
the Trade
the
Federation?
Trade Federation people
the
that are
Asians
like the
and- yeah.
Asian thing. I'm like, and I think I don't even remember his name. The guy who owned Anakin, like there was some Jewish stereotypes in there that don't really sit well. And,
Watto?
Yes.
Yeah.
And then yes, obviously the big one of Jar Jar Binks and the
Yep.
guns in general.
Yep.
Very awkward stuff.
Very upsetting stuff for sure.
Considering like I know this doesn't need to factor in, but like he is married to a black woman, so it is like weird that that's like just out there. Obviously he scales back in the movies
Yes.
to come, but like that first one I'm just like, and then he made that like Red Tails movie about the Tuskegee Airmen. I'm like, so like you're aware of like things that might come off as racist towards black people at the very least. I can't speak to everyone else,
Right.
but I mean your best friend is Steven Spielberg, who is Jewish, so like
Correct.
maybe lay off the like Jewish stereotypes with Watto. But like I was just like, I mean you're kind of surrounded by people that might be able to be like, hey man, what the fuck is this?
Yeah.
Again, it doesn't really play into the story, but I think when I saw it in theaters, I was like, yeah, fun. And then it's when I had it on VHS where I was like, oh boy.
Yeah.
They really make you work for anything that's entertaining in this movie. Like,
Yeah.
there's a lot of boring stuff going
A
on.
lot of boring stuff. There's so much about this movie that I'm like, I don't like, and then there's elements that I do. So the same elements, similar elements of what you were talking about. Honestly, to be perfectly honest, just the Darth Maul stuff is what's interesting
Yeah,
to me.
because you don't like the pod race, so there can't be any. I mean, I think people, I don't really care, but people like the Qui-Gon Jinn stuff, and I'm just like,
I love the Qui-Gon Jinn stuff.
Yeah, and
like
it's
that to
whatever,
me
though.
is like one of the best things ever. Is like you have Qui-Gon, who's like this amazing Jedi, and you reveal through dialogue. It's like, hey, if you just listen, you achieve the rank of master. He's like, I don't care. I don't want rank of master. I'm doing this thing, and I'm doing great Jedi stuff, which is super, super interesting to me, and I love that. That was really, really cool. The thing that I hate about it was this is the first Star Wars movie that I got to see in theaters. And I got so hyped up for it. And I watched it and remember watching it 3 times in theaters and being like, I think that sucked.
Yeah, I think I only saw it once in theater, so I was just like, yeah, it's good. That's fine.
Yeah.
I don't hate it. And then it was like you, just upon multiple rewatches that I was like,
Yeah. And then getting furious about the fact that like Puppet Yoda, the first time around before the re-edit for DVD and or Blu-ray was just the worst looking thing ever. And then like George Lucas even himself like being a hypocrite in regards to his Yoda lore, having Yiddle there on the Jedi Council as well, another member of Yoda's species, and then not having Yiddle ever again. Like what the hell is that all about? It's a really weird thing. It's really
I didn't
really
even
weird.
see her this time when I rewatched it.
Yeah,
I was like, what? Where's Yiddle?
because I think they cut it out.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think they.
Oh, for Disney Plus.
Yeah,
All right, fair enough.
I think they made some cuts and everything like that. Well, they obviously did with the original.
Yes, we are all aware of that.
The
word,
Greedo
McClunky.
McClunky kind of thing. Yeah. So yeah, it is what it is.
All right, number 9.
Number 9, baby. Attack of the Clones for me.
Go ahead.
I want George Lucas to understand what a love story should look like if this is being sold to us as a love story, because at no point in time do you actually get the connection as like, oh, you guys are falling in love. It's the idea of like, oh no, Padme's being responsible and all this kind of stuff, pushing back, but not actually interested in Anakin. Like the entire time she's like, don't look at me like that. I don't like your male gaze. That makes me uncomfortable. Like, it's all this kind of rejection stuff, and it's just him persisting over and over and over again, and that doesn't sit right with me. I don't like when that's the approach that, people take to, court other people. It's like, oh, I'm just going to ignore everything you're saying and just push on. It's disrespectful. Yeah. So I don't like that.
That is a very valid concern.
Yeah, I also don't like the idea, especially because of Anakin's privileged kind of ideology here. Is like, I'm better than any other Jedi, so I get to do this kind of stuff. It's really problematic. It reads into his arrogance, and like that's fully actualized in episode 3, which is kind of consistent and nice to see them continue on with that kind of arc. But the idea of like the love story is not compelling whatsoever.
I would say they had way better chemistry in episode 1.
Yes, they did.
Different actors, but
yeah. It's highly, it's so weird because it's like him backtracking on a whole bunch of things, but also being like to the Star Wars universe, like giving middle fingers to the Star Wars universe and all that kind of stuff. With like that one scene where you see Jar Jar and like Jar Jar kind of like breaks the fourth wall, looks at the mirror and just like looks at the camera and just smiles at everyone, just being like, "Ha, you can't get rid of me," kind of deal. It's a really really weird movie, and it's odd because at no point in time in the Star Wars universe, anything within canon, have they addressed the Master Sifo-Dyas kind of thing with who ordered the clone army in general. No, that was never addressed.
For sure you would know the answer to that.
No, that was never ever addressed within canon. So to me, I'm just like, okay, the whole premise of this movie is based on this. I can accept the fact that maybe Palpatine got Master Sifo-Dyas to do that, and maybe that was Palpatine's original apprentice, but that's not the case because Maul has always been the original apprentice to Palpatine. And then
Maul?
Yeah, Darth Maul.
Interesting.
Yeah, so it's just like, no, Master Sifo-Dyas did not turn like Dooku did to the Trade Federations and to Palpatine's way and all that kind of stuff, to the dark side. It was Master Sifo-Dyas was just like that whole thing was just dropped. They were like, what? Sifo-Dyas? And then they had that dialogue. There was a mystery, but it was never solved. That bothers me so much.
Everything you're talking about is why I don't like any of these prequel movies.
Yeah.
I'm just like, I don't like what a waste of time. Anyway, like it's such a like crazy thing because like
I like the scope and what they were trying to achieve with the prequel movies. I hate how it was executed.
Yeah, that's fair.
That's it. Because like if you look at how the story arcs and character development of Anakin specifically and Obi-Wan, that's a really good story. It really is. You just suck at writing dialogue, George Lucas. You suck
I don't know
at
if it's just dialogue because I feel like
and you suck
every
at
movie
directing.
he's just where he needs to be without me being able to actually see some kind of like or any kind of growth. It's just kind of like, well, he's bad because he needs to be bad now. Like, I understand that things have happened to him, but like, I never see him. I don't feel like you give the character enough time to like layer that into the actual progression of, all right, I'm mad because I need to like control death or whatever. Like, I understand that yes, those elements are in the movie. The movies, like, yeah, his mom dies, so he doesn't want his girlfriend. Are they married at that point?
They're married. Yeah.
Right. So he doesn't want his wife.
3, they're married.
Right. Yes. So he doesn't want his wife to die. I understand that, but it's also kind of like that in a vacuum. Sure. That, but like he also seems like other things have happened to him that I was not privy to. That like have made him basically a different character than episode 2 than episode 1.
Yes, and that's where the whole Clone Wars TV show builds up into that, because you see his development as a general in the Clone Wars and everything like that, especially with him mentoring Ahsoka, who is one of the best written characters in all of Star Wars. So that's really, really interesting to see that dynamic there. Again, highly encourage Clone Wars, the TV show, to watch. So yeah, it's weak. And also, this is one of my favorite things from the Clone Wars, the Attack of the Clones movie. Padme's going to fall in love with someone that basically admitted to committing genocide. Mm-hmm. And I'm just like, okay, you are for the people. You're all about democracy. You're about whatever. And you're like, you just fell in love with a guy that just admitting to just slaughting.
Well, I think she was already in love with him, and then she found out, and then it was like, well,
I'm going to gloss over this real quick.
But I guess when I was talking, I made it seem like it was just about Anakin. I meant that for Padme, and I meant that for Obi-Wan in terms of like things are happening, and yes, I understand how on paper you can be like, see, all of this leads to this, but I don't feel like that actually plays out in the movies.
Yes.
And I feel like everyone just kind of just shifts to where they need to be for the ending to happen.
I agree.
So yes, I did mean that for Padme as well, and I mean it for Obi-Wan. I guess Qui-Gon Jinn is lucky that he dies, so that he doesn't get ruined. But yeah, so that's your number 9, right?
Yep.
Episode 2.
Yeah, what's yours?
Episode 3.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, it's done at least. That's good. It's over.
Why episode 3 as your 9?
Because I was like, all right, yeah, he's Darth Vader now. Cool.
That's it.
Yeah, because rewatching it, I was like, I guess there's fun things happening. I'm enjoying.
There's very little fun happening in that movie.
Wait, is it episode 2 that he? No, it doesn't matter anymore.
Which one are you thinking of?
Doesn't matter. Episode 3 is the beginning of Darth Vader, so good.
Yeah,
I'm glad I got to see that. Or am I? I don't know. It seems like that was the whole point of these movies, so at least they stuck the landing.
So once
in that way.
Once I start talking about episode 3, it's you might change your mind a little bit about it, but
no, it's as low as it's ever gonna be.
Fair enough.
I'm not gonna like it less.
Fair.
I really don't like the first 2, and I'm kind of neutral on this third one.
Yeah, it's the best of the prequel, but that's not saying a lot for sure. I'll give you.
Yeah, and if someone was like, it's not the best of the prequels, I wouldn't fight them on that either. I'd be like, yeah, whatever.
Yeah,
sure.
Yeah.
I just don't I don't actively feel like it's boring or bad. Like I feel like at least it's just one movie I got where they were trying to go. They're like, no, we need him to be Darth Vader. Whether or not that amounts to an engaging movie is whatever. At least I can be like, you wanted him to be Darth Vader, he's Darth Vader at the end. Well done. Did I need that story? I don't know. Like, is it emotionally satisfying? Is it emotionally satisfying when they turn on each other? I don't know, because I kind of was just like, this guy's annoying. Like, someone needs to kill him. I don't like. I don't.
You mean Anakin?
Yeah, I just didn't like him by the end. So I was like, good, kill him.
You're not supposed to like him.
You're supposed to feel bad.
You're supposed to empathize with him. For like, yeah, okay, I get why you're going to these lengths and everything.
Well, I don't know if you're supposed to empathize so much as feel bad that he falls from being that very hopeful kid who wants to do the right thing to like committing genocide in the movie previous, and then
but that's the thing with Anakin that makes him an interesting character, is that he's the most human out of everything. When the Jedi are basically saying like, we do not believe in emotion, we do not believe this and all this kind of stuff that leads to bad things, he's the most emotional Jedi out there, aside from Obi-Wan that you see, really, because everyone else is trying to do their monk thing and being like, we're detached.
Maybe he's the most human Jedi. I was going to say he's not the most human character.
No, he's the most human Jedi, for sure.
Fair
he's
enough.
not the most human character. But he's the most human Jedi.
I still feel like there was a bit of human in Obi-Wan.
There's a lot of human in Obi-Wan. Because the thing is, the thing I love about Obi-Wan's character is like, when you first meet him, he's like this like amazing guy and all that kind of stuff. But like through the prequel trilogy, you see all the mistakes he does make and his arrogance and how he's like made mistakes for Anakin, and how like, because they were so close in age, for when they're trained, because traditionally Jedi Masters and their Padawans are very...
Yeah, that's the other fucked up thing. How old is he supposed to be in Episode 1? Because I keep thinking of
he's like
Anakin.
early 20s, I think.
No, because like, I feel like they're not close in age.
They're closer than you think, because the thing is,
well, I know that he ages up by the second movie, but I'm like, if he's in his 20s in episode 1,
they're
like
roughly
Anakin's like 8 or 9.
Yeah, he's either in his like late teens or something like that for sure.
Anakin can't be because in his late teens in that movie,
because the Jedi Padawan, the trials and everything like that usually happens around that time, around the late teen years. So
well, then that is a horrible miscast to have a 9-year-old play a late teens kid.
I agree.
I don't think he's supposed to be in his late teens.
Either way, it's because they are supposed to be around the same decade. All three of those characters, Anakin, Padme, and Obi-Wan, they're supposed to be within a decade of each other. For sure. That's why he could be like, you're a brother to me as opposed to like you're a son to me.
Yeah, he could still be a big brother.
I doubt it. I think the dynamic.
And I think every time you talk about Jedi, you talk about how they're not supposed to have kids. So brother makes more sense as an analog.
True, I'll give you that. Sure.
But yeah, I just feel like I didn't like him, so I wasn't like. Mm-hmm. On board with where the movie needed me to be for the ending.
Sure. Number 8 for me, Rise of Skywalker.
Fair enough.
Yep. We all know how I felt about that. Listen to our 100th episode.
Yeah, we just did an episode about it.
I've had some time to sit with that movie and not watch it again, but had some time to sit with it and see what other people have written about it and all that kind of stuff. It does have some very, very interesting plot points and all that kind of stuff. Like the Force dyad connection between Rey and Kylo is really, really interesting. And that could retcon, maybe that was J.J. Abrams' retcon ability to be like, see, this is why Rey's so powerful, because they share this connection. Therefore, she has all of Kylo Ren's or Ben Solo's training, and that's why she's able to do this kind of stuff. And that's why when Kylo does something, she picks up on it right away and is connected and all that kind of stuff. So it could retcon that whole the misogynistic, she's a Mary Sue character and all that kind of stuff.
I think the Palpatine thing was supposed to be the retcon.
Right. But
she's that powerful because she's from
the
direct.
But there's also this theory now floating around.
Otherwise, why would you go to the person who's just leeching off of Kylo and not just use Kylo,
right?
If you're Palpatine.
And the other thing too is I think this is the most interesting thing because of what the leaked Colin Trevorrow script and the concept art that has been released over the last little bit is Trevorrow has yep, that's real, that's what I was gonna do. He's confirmed that. It was really interesting because in that script he uses Mortis. Which is the Force planet that is in the Clone Wars. Mm-hmm. And it's a very, very important part of Star Wars lore, and that was really, really wise of him, because if they did go down the Force dyad route, that would have been a perfect replacement for Rey and Kylo to be replacing the son and the daughter of Mortis, representing the light and the dark, as well as having Anakin be the Force Ghost of Anakin be balanced and everything like that. So that would have been really, really cool, because I'm pretty sure that plot detail did not leak, but I'm pretty sure that's what they were alluding to, and I would have loved to actually see that, the Trevorrow script, in production, as opposed to what we actually got with Abrams, which is fan service for the sake of fan service.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, shoulda, coulda, woulda, but we'll see.
Yeah.
Maybe we'll start a hashtag campaign, release the Snyder Cut, of make 3 different versions of Episode 9 until we're happy.
Yeah.
That's never going to happen.
No. What are we on, 8?
We are on 8.
Solo.
It's
fine.
Got it. Yeah.
It's a very safe movie. It's
Is it?
Yeah. They don't take any huge swings or anything that embarrass them Rise of Skywalker.
True.
But everything's pretty controlled. It's pretty much all right. It's what you expect.
It's
when they're we're doing a Solo prequel movie, every beat that you would assume would happen happens.
Yep. So a lot of double crossing.
Yeah, so that's what I mean. It's safe in that way. Nothing was they didn't try anything.
Right.
I won't talk about how I wished it was a different director, but we got the movie we got. It was safe, and it was I don't necessarily think it looks great either, but
no, it does not. It's not a well shot movie, I think. Except for the train scene. The train scene is by far one of the most entertaining things about that movie. Everything else about it is just Okay, sure.
I would have been. I mean, I probably would watch more Kira stuff.
Yeah, maybe.
It's an interesting character. I feel weird about the L3 character because it seems like the movie wants you to laugh at her, but like her main thing is like, let's end slavery. Yes, it's for droids, but like it's like that's not really a laughable cause. Like you shouldn't be like, oh my goodness, what is she complaining about? Like to the extent like, she's like sentient and can be like, oh, like I don't like being a slave.
Yep.
Then it's like, well, then we'll just kill you off, and now you'll be a slave forever because you're in the ship and you don't really have a say in the matter. And it's like, okay.
Yeah.
So that was kind of a bummer.
There's also, since we're talking about Solo and everything like that, with how they wrote the Millennium Falcon and the love droid being uploaded into the data computer and all that kind of stuff, I would have really, really liked to see Lando have some bit of dialogue when flying the Millennium Falcon in Episode 9 to be like, oh, back with my baby again, or something like that, reunited with my baby. Like
I don't think they wanted to acknowledge that.
I don't think they wanted to acknowledge it either, but honestly, like it would have been like at least a little
I was
fun.
waiting for that to happen, but I was also like, oh, all right, fair enough.
Yeah, sure.
No need to bring that movie up again.
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah, Solo's my 8. It's a nice, safe thing to do. I see people for some reason giving it more credit than it deserves, but if it worked for them, it worked for them. Good. I'm glad.
There's nothing
There's nothing offensive about it to me.
Number 7, Return of the Jedi. Too happy-go-lucky.
We had the same 7, but I'm changing it now.
Oh, yeah?
So now we don't have the same 7.
Oh no. It's to me too happy-go-lucky. It's unrealistic that all characters are surviving. Not the whole Ewok thing. The Ewok thing is very realistic. Because it has a commentary on the Vietnam War. A lot of people don't realize that. So you internet people will be like, it's unrealistic that technologically inferior people can win this war. And I'm like, no, look at the Vietnam War. That's exactly what happened. So it's just one of those things. The showdown with the Emperor and Vader, and that was really, really well done. I like that how Luke wasn't the one that actually did it, because I always hated Luke as the primary character. He didn't do it. Vader did.
Yeah.
Vader's one that brought balance to the Force and all that kind of stuff.
Well, that's what the prequels were trying to say.
Yep.
So good for them on tying that in.
Good times. Yeah. And then, all this other stuff, but yeah, that was just easily one of my least favorite of the original trilogy, for sure.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yep.
So Return of the Jedi is your number 7. My number 7 is Rise of Skywalker.
Gotcha.
We did an episode on it. I think it
recently.
It's episode 100. I saw someone try to be like, the Rey is Palpatine's granddaughter thing is exactly like what Luke finds out that Darth Vader is down. I'm like, no, it's not.
No, it's not.
It's like that actually changes his whole way he views what's going on.
Yes.
He's like, oh, so maybe there's room for me to see that there's nuances here. That the information makes no difference to Rey.
Yeah.
She might as well not have heard it the whole movie.
Correct.
Because it doesn't make it she's not like, oh, so am I bad then? She's just like, no, I don't care. And the whole point of the movie was supposed to be like, hey, don't be afraid of who you are. And then at the end, she's like, but I'm not a Palpatine, though. Yeah. But you are, so just say you are and then own it.
Yeah.
Or be like, what the fuck do you need my last name for? My name's Rey.
Yeah.
Shut up.
Yeah, because it's just one of those things that, realistically, the galaxy's so big, you can't really tell me that the lineage thing is kind of like a Lord of, Game of Thrones, oh, I'm this Targaryen.
Right, yeah. Well, I think my big thing was I didn't like that it backtracked on a bunch of stuff that was set up in Last Jedi, and I feel like it didn't even really pay off stuff from Force Awakens. It was just this thing, and I heard recently that it wasn't his idea to put Palpatine in it. Either way, putting Palpatine
Abrams?
in it, it was apparently that was the studio. They were like, you have to put Palpatine in it.
Abrams was so gung-ho about it in the interviews.
Yeah, because he's a good company man.
That's true. He is.
And also he has no room to complain.
That's true.
He's gonna put his great grandchildren's grandchildren through school off of this.
Yep.
he's fine. But like
he's not losing any money.
Yeah, like I understand creatively that it might be frustrating, but like
and he had a lot of excuses
we've
for
talked
this
about,
movie too.
As we've talked about, like I don't know that like I feel like his thing is like let me do a riff on something I like, unless like this is my genuine idea that I'm gonna see through to that. So like I'm sure when they were like you have to use Palpatine, he's like cool, what can I do with Palpatine? Maybe he was frustrated, but I don't think that was like it obviously wasn't a deal breaker for him.
No,
he wasn't like Scott Derrickson where he's like, well then I don't want to do this.
I honestly wish they just gave him more time to do this movie.
Yeah,
because that's really where this movie suffers, and you can see that a lot.
They forced the issue, but also like there was
the timeline
elements.
Was too short.
There was elements of just like really trying to course correct from
the
Last Jedi, which
is so upsetting.
There was no need to course correct.
Yeah.
And so
there's certain things that are like, oh, that's a slap in the face to Rian Johnson, and he's like, no, it's not. But I'm like, it kind of is.
Even if he didn't mean it to be like a direct attack on the director, it was more about what you were saying about like reclaiming his narrative of this. Like, I don't think he was doing it to spite anyone. I don't think so either. I feel like he was just like, all right, like I'm back, and like let me finish what I started, which. Again, I don't think he even successfully did that.
No, he didn't.
So
I don't think he did.
While it wasn't as boring or like I still got to spend time with the characters that I like that he set up in Force Awakens, which is why it's as high as it is. And I do feel like, unlike Solo, there are swings they take. They just don't work for me. But I would rather watch someone swing and fail than someone
then take the safe
just play it safe.
Yeah, I 100% agree with that. Which is why Solo is so low on the list. For multiple reasons. But when you say it's a safe movie, I'm like, oh yeah, I get what you mean by that from a writing standpoint. But yeah, this movie is just we beat it to death for sure.
All right.
By the way, ranked lower than Episode 1 on Rotten Tomatoes right now. The final rating is lower than that. Interesting stuff. Just as a fun fact. All right. Sixth.
Yes.
For me is Force Awakens.
Boom. The first JJ.
Yep.
What do you think of it?
Loving it. Right. Loved it. It did everything that I wanted it to do to prove that, even though it proved it for a minute and then it just disproved it real quick, that Sony, Disney knew what they were doing. They're like, okay, we want a real Star Wars movie that's going to have similar beats, similar kind of things and all that kind of stuff, and then it's going to take us in new different directions with very similar characters and all that kind of stuff. Wonderful movie. Yes, there are definitely missteps in that movie, like the idea of not actually having Han, Luke, and Leia share a scene together one last time is very, very upsetting. But I mean, like, arguably, when you look at the original trilogy, Obi-Wan, Yoda, and Obi-Wan, Anakin, and Padme didn't have a scene together, like, if that's your argument and all that kind of stuff. But I mean, these three are very, very different in regards.
Yeah, that's a different thing.
They ran together all the time.
And I know that people are like, just watch the old movies if you want to see them all together. I'm like, but that's not the point. It's not. The point isn't just the visual. It's just that, like, obviously this movie isn't based on let's deal with the new. It's all based in like let's get you reacquainted with the stuff you like.
Yes.
The stuff you liked was those three. Like these these other characters, I liked them. I thought they were well done. But like that doesn't stop you from having a moment where they're all together.
Correct.
And like you can still split them back up again.
Sure.
But I feel like it would have been nice to see them together. It doesn't really affect my mark on the movie, but
no, it doesn't.
I do feel weird when people are like, "Why did you need that?" I'm like, "Well, we don't need any of this. It's just this is the thing. Like people like to see certain things."
Yeah, the thing in the movie that bothers me more than anything else is the fact that after they come back from blowing up Starkiller Base, that Chewie walks right past Leia without acknowledging. Like that to me is a big misstep. And like to be fair, Abrams has said, yeah, that was a miscalculation on my part. So maybe there's a special edition version where they reshoot that.
No, thank you.
Don't want it. Rise of Episode 7 was definitely my number 6.
So that's number 6. Okay, my number 6 is Return of the Jedi.
Cool.
I liked it when I first saw it as a kid. It comes at a nice time when you're like, oh, everything was so sad and Empire Strikes Back, and now my friends are all back together. I feel like it takes way too long though. Like all that stuff on the ship, like rescuing Han and stuff. Like when I rewatched it, I was like, oh boy, let's get to it.
Tatooine, yeah.
Yeah, I was just like, I'm not into it. And then I was
well,
like,
in all fairness, you can blame Harrison Ford for that. Because, no, honestly, it was Harrison Ford's fault in the sense where it's like, okay, well, you got to put me in a position where if I want to come back to the third one, then I will. But, like, or if I want to die off, you can do that too. So, like, it is Harrison Ford that forced that.
I don't
whole thing.
see how that's the case. You can still edit it down so it's not doesn't take so long.
Length of time is a different thing. Like, there's definitely, like, and I think the Family Guy episode of Star Wars rips on this a lot. That whole scene where they're like about the Sarlacc pit just takes way too long.
Yeah.
It's like all this kind of stuff is what the hell's happening here. Very, very frustrating stuff there, but it's it's fine. It is what it is.
Yeah, and then then Vader takes off his mask and he's like, "I love you, son," and he's like, "It's too bad I gotta die," and the son's like, "Yeah, it is." So that's good.
Yeah, and then there's the whole like insult against David Prowse for that one scene, and that whole like the drama.
They didn't get to use his.
They didn't use David Prowse.
They used
a different actor for that, like a soap opera actor and all that kind of stuff, which was disrespectful to him. But like it was also because like Lucas hated how Prowse would just be like, "Oh, I'm going to talk about this in interviews," and then just like it's spoilers galore and everything like that. So it was just like Lucas purposely made David Prowse unavailable on the day that they shot that one scene and just didn't tell anyone and just fitted that in.
Porgy, what a guy.
Yeah, that was not a good move on your part, buddy.
And I kind of like the Ewoks love C-3PO and consider him God because I'm like, he really gets shit on during these movies. So I was like, that's nice.
Yeah.
People actually respect him.
Yeah.
Good for him. That's
Fun.
a nice little thing for him.
Yeah,
that's my number 6.
Cool. Number 5, we got Rogue One.
We have the same number 5.
Nice. I loved Rogue One. It was the idea that you can have a movie not about the Jedi, but still have the Force in it in a good capacity, not like in Solo, with the Guardians of the Wills and all that kind of stuff with Chirrut. Was slightly annoyed that one of the first Asian characters in the Star Wars universe is a blind monk that does kung fu with a bow staff. Like that was a little upsetting. But then you also have the other guy that's the
Blaze guy.
I forget his name all the time, but
But he's a nice offset. But I see what you mean.
Yeah.
But I do like that there was the both of them.
Yes.
Like, because that character wasn't like, oh, I'll use my kung fu too. He was like, no, I use guns.
Yeah, it's like I'm going to shoot everyone. And that'll be it.
Like everyone else here.
Yeah. So it's that was really, really cool to see how like different sects have worshipped the Force, not just the Jedi.
Right.
And it is the Wills that are the original keepers of the Force until the Jedi took over politically. So that was really, really cool to see, as well as the Kyber crystal thing that they were talking about with the Death Star and why there are no Kyber crystals anymore and what led into the Kylo's kind of Kyber crystal being cracked and all that kind of stuff. So a lot of retconning for sure. And that was really, really appreciated because I really appreciated how they tied up one of the biggest plot holes in cinematic history with like, oh, you have a multi-billion-dollar spaceship and a thermal exhaust port that can set the whole thing up. What the hell? This is stupid. Oh, you made an intentional design based on this drama and this backstory and all this kind of stuff. Love that. Very, very cool. Enjoyed it. Yeah. Still,
this movie is only here because I couldn't, in good faith, put anything above it. I don't think it's a necessary movie. I think that it's hard because like I don't really connect with any characters, so like more so than like what's her name? Is Tandy Newton's character Val in Solo? Like I cared about her more than I care about any other character in this Rogue One movie.
I don't know. Like, they made me care about these other characters. They did. I cared about them at the end.
Yeah, I don't. I just don't. I didn't care about them at all. I felt like Jyn Erso was way like more interesting in the trailers than she was in the movie because like the trailers kind of played it up like she might like be divided on her like allegiances or something, and then the movie starts. I'm like, oh no, this is just who she is. Yeah. She's gonna be the same from the beginning to the end. I get that people feel like what's his name?
Cassian Andor? Yeah.
Is like some cool like
no, you
commentary.
You hate him so much.
I don't hate him so much as like I just don't care what he is.
You just don't like that actor.
I don't like the actor, but also I'm like the character is just like they didn't give him an opportunity to like pay off what everyone is projecting onto him.
Wait till the Disney Plus series, baby.
Sure. But what I'm saying is the movie we have, everyone's projecting like, oh, look at how torn he is on things. Like, but like when do I actually get to see it?
He's never torn.
I don't feel that he's torn about anything.
He's never torn. He's just like
they take away every opportunity for him to ever actually be torn on something.
He's very driven to one thing. He's like, no, fuck the Empire. Like they got to go down, and we're gonna do anything possible to do that. It's very consistent throughout. Who says he's torn? That's ridiculous.
No, I mean that's what people like about the character.
Oh,
They're like, oh, like look at the stuff he's had to look what he's had to do to compromise himself for this mission. I'm like, it seems like he was just prone to doing that anyway.
Yeah, he just kind of did it.
Yeah.
Like,
anyway, the point is, it's number 5, but not because I think it's like so good and everything is just way better than it. It's just like. I guess this is number 5. I guess this is where we came to on this. It looks good. It's a very good looking movie. Right. I like K2. Is that his name? I don't even know the droid's name. The droid's funny.
Oh, yeah, the Alan Tudyk.
Yeah,
character?
K2SO is that his name?
K2SO, yeah.
Yeah,
I do like him.
Yeah, he's fun.
A lot of fun.
Yeah, and then other than that, I like the 2 characters you mentioned, Chirrut Îmwe or. Yeah. You know, the Donnie Yen character and the other guy.
Yeah.
They were interesting insights into other things going on that's not necessarily the rebellion, but not Jedi either. Like, those 2 characters were interesting. And then other than that, I was just like, all right. I get, like, that, for me, that movie is way more like, yeah, they're going to die at the end.
Yep.
Okay. And I have no reason to care about them other than, like, because, again, I know that they're going to get the information where they need to. So I'm not even like, oh, like on the edge of my seat for that. I'm just like, all right, yeah.
But also,
when is this going to happen?
Yeah, that one Darth Vader scene at the end was so badass. But then it has some logical inconsistencies with Episode 4. If you're going to make him that badass with that, like, I love that scene, like the horror elements of that scene. But then you're like, oh, now you're Episode 4, like a week later fighting Obi-Wan, and you're just like basically 2 old men like pew, 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 versus like, oh, none of you bothered to use the Force, so that's weird.
Yes, I agree with all of that. But yeah, you just remind me. Yeah, the Darth Vader stuff is a cool fight, but maybe not in the best interest of that movie and the series overall.
Correct.
Other than the meta thing of what we talked about, I think when we reviewed the movie of restoring some of that like power back to Darth Vader, that because he'd kind of been left on this like. The Episode 3 thing of like, but also that what a weird way to end one of the more like fearsome characters in cinematic history. This gave him back some of that power, but again, it doesn't really make sense if you're watching these.
It's
all
not
out.
Connected really, unless Number 4, Revenge of the Sith. Now, what I will say. Adding on top of what you've already said about Revenge of the Sith, everything that you said is accurate about that. I really enjoyed this because I love watching heroes fall. And this is the quintessential movie to see that for. And how the decisions he makes and all that, how human they actually are. I really
I guess I just never saw him as a hero. I only ever saw Obi-Wan as a hero. And he doesn't fall.
Right. But to me, Anakin is the hero of the entire
Anakin
thing.
To me was just some annoying guy that Obi-Wan had to deal with.
Right. No, to me, Anakin was the hero of the entire saga up until...
I know that he's supposed to be. I'm saying what actually played out was like...
Yeah, you end up being like annoyed at him. And, like that's fair. But this movie was, I think, really, really well done from like the writing standpoint, from the arcs and all that kind of stuff, how it tied in with previous Star Wars lore, the one opera scene that speculates everything. Like we keep talking about that opera scene for a lot of different things, and then there's
that was Episode 3. I thought it was
that's Episode 3. It's Episode 3. There's so many different elements that this movie is just. This is such an important movie. And obviously the most well done of the prequel trilogy, but also like I love dark movies. And when you rewatch this movie, when you take away the glitz and glamour of the Coruscant, the Republic, and all that kind of stuff, then you really have a dark movie, a really dark movie where like, oh, okay, you're because of love, you've been convinced to kill children. in a genocidal situation again. You're doing this. You have to fight your brother based on morality, not based on like, oh, you like, you know, hit me with a car, I'm gonna fight you now. Like, it's not so straightforward. It's based on like, now I have to fight you, and you feel the emotional tension behind that. Aside from the fact that you have one of the best lightsaber cinematography, because like at the time Lucas was like, this is the last time I'm gonna shoot something like this. Legit thought that, and was just like, so I'm gonna create a crazy ass lightsaber scene, and that was a lot of fun to watch. This movie is really, really fun to watch. And then the biggest thing that this movie is, what I will say is, the novelization of this movie is significantly better than the actual movie itself. So, and specifically, like, talking about the Count Dooku scene, where, you know, like, Anakin just slaughters Dooku because Palpatine's like, do it. The idea that what mentally happens in Count Dooku's head while this is happening and all that kind of stuff is the most interesting stuff when you read the novelization, because all of, like, Dooku thinks like, oh yeah, I'm the right hand man, I'm the VP or whatever, I'm like badass, like I'm like Palpatine's whatever and whatever, I'm like basically invincible. And then at just one moment with a look, he just realizes, oh my god, I've been the biggest pawn in this the whole time. It's never been about me, it's always been about Anakin, and now I've been used, I've been so stupid and all this kind of stuff. I really should have taken Palpatine, I should have killed him when I got the chance, and all this kind of stuff, and I got tied up with this whole Trade Federation bullshit and all that. It was really, really interesting. So to see that, and then to see a lot, and then Order 66 executed, all the reasons for why you have such a extravagant prequel trilogy that does not connect at all with the original trilogy because the Jedi are all gone. Like, how did that happen? It was like this crazy thing that I really enjoyed watching, like, over and over and over again. Like, episode 3 is so underrated to me.
I'm glad it worked for you.
Yep. What's your number 4?
Is Star Wars. The original flavor Star Wars.
OG Star Wars.
What a great time at the movies.
Yeah.
Very nice at world building.
Mm-hmm.
I guess as a kid I did think like, oh yeah, Luke's cool, but that's probably because he was as annoying as I am as a kid. I always loved Han Solo, so I was a big fan of that. One thing I will give the movie Solo credit for is that, like, a lot of the stuff that you might have thought was like Solo being like cool in the original Star Wars now plays kind of like the unsure person he is in Solo. I kind of like that kind of consistency in the character. I mean, it sucks that he doesn't really grow, but I guess that movie isn't set that far away from Star Wars.
It's not supposed to be.
Yeah, so
probably like within 10 years or something like that.
Yeah, so it's still I like how that kind of thing, but the original movie, great time. Yep. I don't really have anything bad to say about it. Obviously, with time and all the different edits, it's annoying. Yep. We weren't alive for like the original movie that came out in theaters, but I feel like
no, that was released in 1979. 76 or something like that. Yeah.
But yeah,
because like when we were alive, the only movie that would have been released in theaters would have been the Return of the Jedi, because that was 89.
No, that was like 83. I wasn't alive for that. No, I wasn't alive for Return of the Jedi. I wasn't alive for any of the original ones, but they did re-release them, and I know there was some form of special edition, but not as special edition as where we are now. Yeah, to the point where like I don't even think you can get the versions they released in the theaters when we were alive.
Yes, you can, but it's like B cuts and everything like that. They're definitely not up to 4K quality or resolution, and there's nothing.
No, what I mean is like legally.
Oh, yeah.
No, I'm not. No. I'm aware that you can get anything on the internet. Legally, what I'm saying is no, there's nothing that you can pay for that will get you even the versions we saw in theaters.
Yet.
Right. Well, no, I think there's a deal that they can't, like Disney Plus can't do it because of so like.
That'd be so annoying.
Yeah. So
annoying. Because Disney would make so much money just by being like, guess what, guys?
Yeah. They probably could. But yeah, yeah, so I wasn't alive for that, but like I do understand like how that would start this like create like crazy fandom that like, for being honest, has really exhausted me in the last couple of years. But
yeah,
like,
it has. It's been time being part of this fandom too. I will admit that.
But it's just amazing world building, and I'm very happy that it is existing in the world, even with the edits they've made.
Yep.
It still stands out.
Yeah. Number 3, The Last Jedi.
We have the same number 3.
A lot of people shit on this movie. And really, really rewatch it, because I get that you're angry with it. It's a very divisive movie, but to me, Episode 9 is way more divisive than Episode 8 ever will be. The idea, like, no, you have character development after all those years with Luke. I get that, like, really think about what Luke went through. He, like, during that period of time, like, his reaction is very understandable. And then the idea of, like, oh, people were like, they didn't like the whole force projection thing. And I'm like, that's
amazing.
That's the most amazing thing ever. I'm like,
and they don't like the Leia floating in
and I'm just like, the Leia thing makes so much more sense now because she was trained as a Jedi, so she was able to use the Force. So why are you guys upset about that? And it was just like, it was dumb. Like, even when it came down to the idea of, like, nobody says, I've got a bad feeling about this except for BB-8 through droid beeping and all that kind of stuff, is really, really cool to me. That was a movie that is still, I love it more and more each passing moment. And yes, there are issues with it, like any other movie, but that took a big swing, and that connected for me. That really did connect for me, because, like, the idea of, like, questioning authority, questioning hubris, questioning all these things.
What do you think? Because we've got friends that really don't like that Holdo didn't tell Poe
the plan. Who cares?
But I also feel
Holdo
like
outranks Poe. Why?
More than who cares. He has no right to know what it is.
Correct.
And also, it was already shown that when he has the information, he does the wrong thing.
Yes.
So, like, like, even in the movie, they address it. Like, people are like, oh, she should have just told him, like, but, like, that.
But why?
For me,
he was
plays
demoted.
more like he's the man. Just tell him the information he needs.
Yes.
Because I don't like he makes mistakes throughout the movie, and the whole point of that movie is for him to learn to, like, properly assess the situation and not try to be the hero every time, but actually, like, make the move that saves the most lives.
Correct.
And so, like,
think outside of your own capabilities.
He wasn't thinking like that at the time. And who cares even if she recognized that? The point is, she outranked him, and she already knew that Leia was like, well, I've demoted him.
Yes.
So it's like,
I'm sorry, at that point in time, when you're following a military thing and all that kind of stuff, he's really falling out of line there.
Yeah.
He really is. He's being really disrespectful. He's like, oh, I'm going to mutiny and we're do this, because I think, well, now that you have a plan and all that kind of stuff, now we know what it is. I'm sorry, but she doesn't have to justify anything to anyone. And that's a good message. It's just like, listen, you can ask questions all you want, but in that line of command, you're not owed an explanation.
No.
And that's all he was. It was just basically like,
it's part of, like, trusting that there are people who know better than you. Like,
yeah.
Because no matter what she says, he obviously doesn't trust her or respect her.
Yep.
So it wouldn't really matter what her plan was.
Yeah. The only thing I think is fair of the criticism of that movie is, like, oh, they basically took a Battlestar Galactica plot point from an episode and made that the main story. I'm like, oh, okay, that's fair to rip, but, like, for them to rip that off is not so imaginative, so to speak. But at least it was.
But it set the table for more interesting things to happen.
It created a lot of tension for sure. Behind that whole thing.
But yeah, I think the only thing that stops this from being higher than other movies on this list is I don't feel that, like, it feels as cohesive as the two movies I have had. It. Some people, I think wrongly, are like, well, I don't like the, like, side story about Finn and Rose. I'm like, but that is the story. That's the main story.
You're
fact that they're putting so much effort into the Rey and Luke thing, I feel like that should have been brought in a little bit better, because I know that people like to see Luke, so they think that's the main story. But by all means, that is the side.
I disagree.
It's not a side mission; it's just a side story.
Yeah, I disagree with that. I don't think it's more about liking Luke. I think it's more about the idea of, like, oh, here's where the Jedi are going. We're naturally going to follow the Jedi from a storytelling perspective.
I understand how you look at it, but if you look at the internet, it's about not liking Rose and liking at least someone from the old movies that they like.
Correct.
Luke. So I would disagree with you on that one.
Sure.
I would say that there was a very vocal group of people who are like, why would they waste time on these characters?
A very small vocal group of people, too. Very small vocal group of people. A very small vocal group of people, too. 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 A
I don't know how small they are, but they were definitely vocal. I feel like the people who liked it for the right reasons is a smaller group than people want to admit.
I will defend that movie.
I think
to the core.
I think it's not like if you don't like it, there's something wrong with you. I'm just saying, when I hear reasons people don't like it, I'm like, all right, man. Like, there's some good reasons, but then there are the vocal people, and I won't say majority or minority. I'll just say the vocal people that voice their disdain for characters like Rose and that mission that they're like, would they just fail? I'm like, but that's also part of it. Is like, you need to like. You're not trying to, it's what Rose said, like, you're not trying to kill what you hate. You're trying to save what you love. And, like, that's what they were doing. They were trying to save their friends. They weren't going on a mission to, like, kill people. And then they got screwed over or whatever. But, like, I liked that because that was playing into the whole, yes, I think it's the main story, but it's also Finn's story of, like, sure, first movie, you were like, all right, I'm not going to, watch that. I'm not going to be part of this.
I'm not part of this
but
fight.
Like, it also is like putting into question whether or not he's just in another cult now. And then he decides for himself, no, I'm where I want to be. But that's part of it, is having characters like DJ and like that whole mission open his eyes, and so now he has more information to make his decision of being like, I'm where I need to be, or I'm where I want to be. It doesn't really matter about where.
And I love the social political commentary more than anything else. Is like, okay, you guys, like, good versus evil all you want, but the most evil people are the people profiting off this battle to begin with. And like, that's the reality of everything that we're dealing with right now. Is like, who stands to profit from having a war? Kind of, those are the all this. It's really meta. It's really smart. A lot of things that they did to address the Star Wars community and all that kind of stuff was really, really good. I just wish that Episode 9 continued on with that. But either way, that's The Last Jedi. Number 2, A New Hope, the original, the OG. Love that movie so much for all the reasons you say. Building, all that thing. The only reason why it's not number 1 is because my number 1 is I just feel it's better. But yeah. There's nothing realistically I can say about this. The only thing that does suffer, and we've said it before, is how powerful they make Vader in Rogue One, how weak they make him in Episode 4 and all that kind of Episode 4 and all that kind of stuff. So yeah.
For that battle, I would say he looks
not
weak.
necessarily the battle, but also like the
because he's force choking people all over the place, and people, and I feel like people are rightfully scared of him. Like, and then anyone who isn't gets choked out. So I would just say he looks weak in the battle, which comes down to the direction, because I think that's just the visual.
It was definitely how George Lucas directed that fight at the same time. It was the idea of, because if you like,
because you're still looking at the best of both sides, if that's how you want to look at it. So it wasn't necessarily that it was like, oh, these are just two old guys. Like that was just. That's how he wanted to stage those.
It was definitely how he wanted to stage it, because like when you listen to George Lucas talk about breakdowns of why he did the things that he did, the decisions he made in Episode 4, especially that lightsaber battle between Obi-Wan and Vader, the direction that they were given is treat these things like broadswords. You have to have two hands on them. They're heavy. You don't swing them. It's not like easily do whatever. And then in Episode 5, in Empire, he's like, okay, yeah, we can start to do one-handed stuff. It's a little bit lighter. It's a lightsaber. So he's like, yeah, you can do one-handed stuff. So it's the idea of like him going back on that kind of ideology, which is what makes the lightsaber fights, it suffers because of that. He was just basically evolved that, and then throughout the years, especially with the prequel trilogy, being like, oh, everyone's jumping around, they're doing one stuff, like it just makes it inconsistent from that standpoint.
I 100% agree. Are you?
That's all I got for number 2. What about
so my number 2 is The Force Awakens. You'd think that Last Jedi would be higher, but I think for what it's trying to achieve, it does it well. I don't have, other than maybe that scene where like they let that monster loose on the Millennium, whatever that is. But still, you got the people from the raid there. I'm like, that's cool. I like them. But like, other than that scene, like, there's nothing that makes me be like, I wish this wasn't here, or like we should move on. Like, as I said, it's Last Jedi is a bit muddled, but that's kind of the Rian Johnson way of like he's taking swings, so not everything kind of like connects like a well-oiled machine. But I like that. But I'm just saying, like, in terms of like going back to like world building. Like I really thought he established those 3 characters really well. Like
Yes.
more than 3, the 4 characters that I legitimately cared about. I mean, I think Last Jedi did Kylo Ren a bit more favors because
Yes.
there was a point where I'm like, oh, he's not just like a regular bad guy. Like it looks like they just wanted to redeem him, but I kind of liked when it didn't look like he would be redeemed, and it was just like, no, he's not. Like, this isn't like some prophecy for him. He is now, like, now it has become kind of personal for him, and it's like he's conflicted, and we can like explore that. I liked that in Last Jedi, but in Force Awakens, like I still cared about Kylo Ren,
Right.
Rey, Finn, and Poe. Like those, like to establish those 4 new characters in a movie that, well, didn't really have Luke in it, but like had all the other people that I actually wanted to see was a big deal.
Right.
And so I really like that, and I feel like it moves. It's like someone explained it as just like a great pop song of like you. It seems familiar. It's different enough, but like there's the familiarity that makes you feel good about it.
Yeah, it's kind of like Thriller, in the sense where like it's pop, it's Michael Jackson, we love it, but it's also like, ooh, it's creepy and spooky too. This is kind of
I would
different.
say Thriller's a bit different. But
Okay, well, yeah, that was me
I
on
feel
the cuff.
that's a yeah. I would say Thriller's a bit more.
It's very different.
Yeah.
What I will also add on to The Force Awakens too is that easily was the movie that had the best fan reaction that I experienced.
Overall, yes,
yeah.
because I do know a bunch of people like, oh, it's just the same thing. And then when we were talking about Last Jedi, we were like, so Force Awakens was bad because it was just the same thing, but apparently Last Jedi is bad because it's different.
Yeah. So the idea of like, like I remember how wild the audience went when they were like, oh, like that hunk of junk, and it's like, oh, the hunk of junk will do it. And it's the Millennium Falcon.
Yeah.
Everyone's like going crazy for it. Everyone's like, and also the amount of questions and speculation that I got the whole community into in that one movie was absolutely fantastic.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Like the idea of who is Rey is such a cool question that like
It did make me lean in and be like, all right, I'm invested in these characters. I like what Last Jedi did to finish it, but
yes.
Again, I keep saying it. The only reason I don't like it more than Force Awakens is because it feels a bit muddled in terms of the focus.
And then the Canto Bright scene looking ultimately unfinished from an
yeah,
editing
yeah,
standpoint.
that part I
from
don't
a visual
like.
standpoint. Yeah. But yeah.
yeah.
Also,
So,
the okay, number one, obviously the last one that's left is Empire Strikes Back.
Exactly. There we go. We have the same number 1.
Yep. What can we say about this movie that?
There's just something about it. When I was rewatching before Rise of Skywalker came out, I was kind of like, yeah, these movies. And then like there was just something about Empire Strikes Back that like made me like lean in, and I was just like, it just feels different. Like it's got a different kind of energy to it.
Oh, it
like
has
I feel
a
like
completely different energy to it. It just like picks up with action right off the bat.
it's a movie with purpose,
It's
and
awesome.
I feel like
And it's a movie that's really interesting because it doesn't the quote unquote good guys lose, but you're still hopeful at the end of it, which is super cool. I like that a lot. There's not a lot of movies that do that. Yeah, there's not a lot of movies that can do stuff like that.
No,
that movie did it really, really well. It was also not only that, historically speaking, one of the biggest plot reveals and shocker moments of all time is like Vader is Luke's father. That's really cool, and like it was such a cool thing. I loved everything about it. But yeah, it's really interesting. And then obviously like Luke being hard-headed, doing his thing.
And we got to meet Yoda. That was nice.
Yoda's fantastic in that.
Which people have made a point that like Yoda's very much like what Luke was like in Last Jedi. For
Correct.
everyone that was mad about the Luke representation, he's like, he's like he knows things now, so he's not as like this is the way. Like he's kind of having fun. He's kind of like, well, I don't really need to do this or want to do this. I'll do it anyway, though. I guess. I really like Empire Strikes Back. There's something that's, I mean, ultimately, are they still playing up the Luke and Leia? I think that's
thing?
that's the only thing that's kind of a bummer to me is that like, it's weird that he's like, did I have that as a plan already, or did I just think about that after the fact? That stuff is like, all right, that would be an edit I'd be fine with if they take out their kisses, or maybe the second kiss when she's trying to make Han jealous.
Yeah.
I'd be fine with that as an edit.
Because the first kiss was on A New Hope for luck after the bridge thing, and then the second kiss was like, the
second one was
looking nerf herder kind of comment, and I'm gonna make you jealous. But yeah, like to me that love story makes so much sense between Han and Leia for sure.
Yeah.
That was like, so it's like the idea of Lucas not being able to write a love story. I'm like, no, he's able to do it, but he's not able to do it as a primary vehicle of the movie.
I think there's also an element of the different directors, right? Like that's
Lawrence
he didn't
Kasdan,
direct.
He did not direct.
No, I don't think Lawrence directed.
I think he did.
No, he wrote it, but I don't think he directed it. It's like Irving something.
Oh, Irving Kershner.
Yeah.
Yep. Sorry.
But yeah, so I think that plays into it as well.
Yeah.
I think that when you have a like someone else directing, because that's what I've heard multiple times. He's not that interested in directing humans.
Right.
He's very he can do the digital stuff. He's
what, you mean with Lucas?
Yeah, Lucas.
Yeah, he was very much a virtual effects guy for sure.
So,
he was that era's Michael Bay. He definitely was.
I don't know about that.
I think he definitely was.
Well, what has Michael Bay done that people like as much as
Transformers?
No.
No, I mean like from the perspective of he was so much more focused in on the visual elements of everything.
Oh, okay.
Than actual.
I would still say no, because
but even then no, because there's more there's a lot of cohesion in the storyline.
Yeah, and he's also part of Indiana Jones. Like he's part of things that people unanimously love.
Right.
Like, Transformers is I don't know that people go to see them, but they're not even making money anymore.
No.
And also no one speaks fondly about them as much as they speak fondly about the George Lucas era Star Wars stuff.
Yeah, that's fair. Tongue in cheek kind of jokes. But yeah, that was Empire was really, really good. It gave us a lot more. Continue to build that world. What does Vader look like under that helmet? Oh, we know he's actually human. He's just horrifically scarred up. That's really, really cool. Getting the first glimpse of the Emperor, which is really awesome.
Yeah.
Having that slow build towards this big thing is awesome. I liked it a lot.
It's a really well done movie.
Yep.
And Lando.
Yep.
Cloud City.
Yep. That was fun.
Yeah.
Liked it a lot.
He was really in it over his head. All right. Well, we did it, guys. We ranked them. Do you want to read them out again, or people can just rewind and listen again?
So you can rewind. I'll just do it right now. So from my 11 to 1, we have Solo, Phantom Menace, Attack of the Clones, Rise of Skywalker, Return of the Jedi, Force Awakens, Rogue One, Revenge of the Sith, Last Jedi, A New Hope, and then Empire Strikes Back.
Excellent. And for me, I have I'll just say the names. Attack of the Clones, The Phantom Menace, Revenge of the Sith, Solo, Return of the Jedi, Rise of Skywalker, then Return of the Jedi, Rogue One, Star Wars the Original, Last Jedi, Force Awakens, and Empire Strikes Back. Excellent. We did it.
Yep.
Boom. All right. Well, that's it for us this week. I guess next time we'll be talking about Birds of Prey. 2 weeks from now. Which had another trailer I liked, but whatever. It doesn't really matter. I don't really want to talk about the trailers. Yeah. I like it. It looks cool. I've heard bad things, but...
The reason why we're not talking about the trailers is because we're going to talk your ears off about it in 2 weeks.
Right. So, thank you very much for listening. Please go to thatshelf.com for other great podcasts like Bad Game Movies, Black Hole Films, No Budget Nightmares. What a great theme song. I can't wait for you guys to listen to it over and over again. Yep. Highly Logical, Composers. It's all there. It's all great. And we're building on getting more podcasts on the network, so just stay tuned. If you want to hear more episodes from us, like our Force Awakens episode, which isn't actually on that shelf, go to tdfeverything.com/spoiledrotten. You'll find our social media for Ben and I, as well as our Twitter, which is at tdfspoiled, our email, which is spoiledpodcast@gmail.com, and you can find us on Apple Podcasts, Google Music, Spotify, Stitcher. So please rate, review, and subscribe on those things, and share with your friends.
Yeah, and on one final note, we are recording this on January 25th, so Gong Hei Fa Choi, or Happy Lunar New Year to all of our people celebrating the Lunar Chinese New Year Festival. I am not a good one at doing that because I'm celebrating tomorrow, but have a good time with that.
right.
You know, happy Chinese New Year.
Excellent.
Good times.
Thank you for adding that.
May everyone bring forward prosperity and health.
Is this the year of the rat?
Yeah.
Awesome.
It's a reset cycle. Boom.
I know
Every 12 years, baby.
Yes.
Because the rat jumped off the ox's head.
What a rat. Am I right,
I
guys?
know, right? That's the story. Like that. Like the Chinese zodiac story is really, really cool. And I'm the chump that let the rat stand on my head and cross the river. That's why the ox is second, because he was the chump.
Boy. Oh, boy. All right. Well, we did it,
Story
guys.
of my life. Cheers.
Bye-bye.
This has been a TDF Everything production, brah.